New Yorkers, they're rude, they're crude, they don't give you any time, no one's friendly when you walk down the street. I don't get that.
No,
I don't
it's
get
not
that at
true.
all. I actually love the
That's a huge
people.
misconception,
It's a
yeah.
huge misconception. When we walk down the street, I love how friendly people are to.
Drew Scott from Property Brothers disappeared from TV for over a year and fans had no idea what was happening. In 2019, something started attacking his body from the inside. Doctors ran test after test, searching for lupus, checking for neurological diseases, but nothing made sense. His mind went foggy. His body couldn't handle heat. He lost the energy to stand on set. And the scariest part, no one knew what was killing him. By the time they finally found the answer, the damage was already done. Today, we're uncovering the hidden illness that almost ended his career and the painful truth he kept from millions of viewers. Drew Scott's birth story begins in a room where everyone thought the hard part was over. It was April 28, 1978. In Vancouver, and Joanne Scott had just delivered Jonathan. The doctor walked out, ready to move on with his day, and Joanne let herself breathe for the first time in hours. Then a nurse leaned forward with a strange look and whispered that she felt another heartbeat. Joanne's mind froze. She later joked that her first words were something she could not repeat in polite company, but Drew remembered her shouting, "OSH," in disbelief. For minutes after Jonathan arrived, Drew slipped into the world. There had been no hint of twins because in 1978, ultrasounds were rare unless something seemed wrong. And the boys' heartbeats had lined up so perfectly that even trained ears missed it. For the Scotts, the surprise was not just big. It was life-changing. 2 sons instead of 1. 2 futures unfolding at once. As the shock faded, their family life took shape on a quiet horse farm in Maple Ridge. Jim and Joanne had come from Scotland and built their home with their own hands. The land was rough and the chores endless, but the boys learned to love that rhythm. There were mornings when the cold nipped through their jackets while they hauled feed across the yard. There were afternoons when they raced horses across open fields, feeling like the world stretched out forever. Joanne joined them in karate lessons and pushed them to stay disciplined. Their parents kept them on a tight but loving path, teaching them to save money, fix what broke, and keep going even when things were hard. That ranch life carved resilience into them before they even knew what the word meant. It taught them how to work, how to try, and how to stand back up. By the time they were 7, Drew and Jonathan wanted to create something of their own. That spark led to Jam Enterprises, a tiny business with a name built from John, Andrew, and Mom. They wrapped hangers in soft nylon, added little rose decorations, and carried them house to house, selling them with shy smiles and big hope. Their pitch was simple, but their effort was not. Sometimes doors slammed. Sometimes people bought 5 at once. Then a wholesaler placed a huge order, the kind that made their eyes widen. The boys earned close to $1.1500, a number that felt magical. In the 1980s, Joanne guided them through invoices and deliveries, turning their small craft into a real lesson in business. That first success showed them that money could grow from hard work and that teamwork mattered more than talent. Not long after that, Their world took an odd and colorful turn. At 8 years old, they became child clowns. Drew became Curly and Jonathan became Dimples. It sounded silly, and it was. But those gigs paid up to $100 an hour. They performed at parades and birthday parties covered in paint and balancing props while children laughed around them. Drew liked the rush of it, the feeling of holding a room's attention. He also liked buying candy for friends with the money they made. Yet the makeup, the costumes, and the long setups wore them down. Eventually, they stepped away. But those moments nudged Drew toward performing. They taught him how to read a crowd and how to keep people watching, something that would help him far more than he realized. Their childhood rolled forward with structure and tough love. Jim believed in work at any age and insisted they get jobs as soon as they could. It did not matter if they were selling hangers, clowning, or taking care of the ranch. The goal was to build character. Creativity was encouraged, but responsibility came first. Every chore, every early morning, every small business attempt layered new strength into them. Later on, when people ask how they managed to juggle real estate, acting, and television, the twins always pointed back to their parents. Everything good started there. While Jonathan leaned toward construction and magic tricks, Drew dreamed of basketball. By high school, he practiced 4 to 5 hours a day, pushing himself until he earned a 43 in vertical jump. It was the kind of number that made coaches pause. He made the University of Calgary team, but an injury stopped him before he played even one official game. Then in 2003, when Hugh was 25, another college offered him a spot. At first, it felt exciting, but quickly he realized the recruits around him were younger and moving faster. He walked away from the sport, feeling the ache of a dream closing behind him. That moment hurt, but it pushed him somewhere new. Real estate waited on the other side of that decision, even though he did not see it clearly at the time. At 18, while entering university, the twins bought their first property. Most students could barely pay rent, but Drew and Jonathan found a $200,000 fixer with a vendor take-back mortgage that required only a $250 down payment. They renovated it, sublet rooms for $800 each, lived rent-free, and sold the house a year later with a $50,000 profit. The process felt risky and thrilling. That flip became their entry into a world that would later define them. They kept going, flipping dozens of homes over the next 15 years, building experience one wall and one decision at a time. Drew kept juggling side jobs to survive. Flight attendant, personal trainer, website designer, mall security, bus boy, even manager at a bikini store. Nothing stuck for long, but every job taught him something about people and pressure. Even with all that work, stability felt far away. He needed more control, especially when realtors kept costing them money through bad deals. So in 2004, after losing thousands topo representation, Drew decided he had had enough. He got his real estate license so he could protect every dollar they earned. With both brothers licensed, they handled everything themselves. That choice set the stage for their empire. Later that same year, they launched Scott Real Estate Incorporated. It was a complete system under one roof. Drew found and negotiated properties. Jonathan designed, renovated, and staged them. They opened offices in Vancouver, Calgary, and Las Vegas, taking on up to 10 renovations at once. They became millionaires long before television ever called their names. Still, Drew held on to his acting dreams. His early acting career was full of small sparks, but no flames. He appeared in Breaker High in 1997 and Smallville in 2001, usually as background characters or uncredited extras. Even as a kid, he had performed as a clown, but nothing ever pulled him into the spotlight the way he hoped. Rejection piled up. He tried again and again through the late 1990s and early 2000s, but Hollywood did not open its doors. In 2002, he and his brothers started Davidian Production Group, hoping to build their own projects, but funds were tight and distributors kept turning them away. They kept the company alive only because real estate covered the bills. By 2010, they shifted toward digital and TV, but those early years tasted like constant struggle. By 2006, Drew hit burnout. He moved to they signed licensing deals. Their designs moved into furniture, kitchenware, and whole home collections. Drew stepped into boardrooms and helped shape every deal because the brand carried his name and his promise. He also stepped behind the camera. Scott Brothers Entertainment became his second home, a place where he shifted between creator and executive. By 2024, the company had produced more than 20 original series, digital projects, and branded films for platforms like HGTV, Netflix, and Amazon. Drew reviewed budgets, sat with creative teams, and built partnerships with companies that wanted access to the Property Brothers magic. Some days he filmed in one city, flew out for a meeting that same night, and arrived at an editing room the next morning. There were months he logged more than 20,000 miles while still appearing on screen like nothing was happening behind the scenes. But the pace began carving into him. Years of travel, filming, and constant pressure caught up in ways he did not expect. By 2025, he felt bone-deep exhaustion that no sleep could fix. His body ached heat from studio lights made him dizzy. Some days he could not stand for long without feeling his legs give out. Doctors later told him he was dealing with possible mercury poisoning along with chronic fatigue syndrome. The symptoms had been growing quietly for months, hidden behind smiles and scheduled appearances. Fans only saw small absences and quick statements. They did not see the days he could barely move or the moments he questioned whether he could keep going. When he finally spoke about it, people were shocked. It became clear that success had come with a heavy price. Long before the fame and the business expansion, something softer had started shaping his life. In 2010, during Toronto Fashion Week, Drew met Linda Fan. The room buzzed with music and bright lights, but she stood out with her playful costume as the fashion police, handing mock tickets to anyone with a questionable outfit. Drew laughed. She laughed. Soon they stepped out for sushi, then hot cocoa, then karaoke until sunrise. That first date had no taco novations or television. It was two people. Singing, joking, and learning each other's rhythm. Drew later said he believed in love at first sight. But what stayed with him was Linda's warmth and the steadiness behind her smile. Their connection grew slowly and then, all at once. Later, when she became creative director at Scott Brothers Entertainment, their lives merged even more. Their wedding came a few years later in Italy on May 12, 2018. Huglia's hills looked soft under the sun as more than 300 guests arrived. The ceremony felt dreamy, but the path to that day was anything but calm. They had only 3 months to plan everything. Vendors needed decisions. Families needed guidance. Drew needed to hear an elaborate first dance with Emma Slater, his partner from Dancing with the Stars. They worked with a designer named Vincenzo, who brought their mixed Scottish and Vietnamese heritage into the floral details. They filmed the entire celebration for a TLC special, adding another layer of pressure in the middle of it all. Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like,